Hello, this is David Baumblett from Terabant Leadership. Thanks for joining in. I appreciate it. Also, thanks for your patience with these videos. Hopefully within a month or so, I'm going to get back and doing what's called live videos and better camera and whatever. But it's been a bit of a different time period over the last year. So thanks a lot. This video is going to be about the economy and about investment and about money. Why is that? I've said many times, America has really turned into a corporation and we've lost what being a country is. And what would be the main difference between a country and a corporation? Generally, it's about the money. If anyone's worked for, especially for these globalist American corporations, you will realize that it's really all about the money and the ideology is globalism. And if you really think what has been the biggest influence on America, again, the security yo-yos, there's a lot of morons in the security industry in America, from the intelligence saying Russia's influenced us, China, everything. And of course, they have their own operations. But the biggest influence that's changed America has been the globalist corporations. I mean, who owns Hollywood, the media, the politicians, even you're working for? It's the corporations. They really have changed our ideology. And again, our ideology in America, whether you know this or not, whether you agree this or not, is globalism. It's also feminism. And yes, it is communism, whether you believe it or not. And again, I've talked many positive things about Trump, and Trump is sort of skirting the line. And oh, by the way, boy, he gave a great talk at the UN about illegal immigration. He's on it. But that's a great point to think about. And I've said this before. The reason that Trump is so against illegal immigration, which he's absolutely right on, I still think it comes on to money, meaning Trump is running the country like a corporation, like he's the CEO. And that's not all bad, but it's not really the solution. And what does a CEO want? I've said this many times. He's like a turnaround CEO where he needs to cut costs and increase profits. And anyone who looks at illegal immigration, even the Chinese would say, he's like, they would say to me, David, why are the Western countries allowing illegal immigrants in? What's the benefit, like financial? Like, why are you paying them all this free money? And I'd be like, yeah, I'm not quite sure. It's pretty amazing. It's communism. So from an economic standpoint, illegal immigration makes no sense. And that's where Trump puts a hard line on it. But like I said, there's some other stuff. But let's talk about the economy. And what we've realized is, and I've said this before many times, and I'm going to sort of change the way I deliver my talks. And that is, if you remember before, I would be like, okay, please contact your congressman or senator, tell them why I'm under investigation, why I'm not. Fuck that. It's no one cares. And this is what I'm telling you. No one really cares about each other anymore in America. Even military veterans, we really don't care about each other anymore. So what do we care about? It's come down to the money, people. It really is, which shows you, just like the Roman Empire, where their economy was what eventually collapsed. It's also what's one of the reasons we're going to collapse. But now that I've been on social media and I've been re-engaged in America, just from observation, it's amazing how much money we are, that I don't even think what our other values are. We're not a Christian country. So again, let's talk about money. Even, I'm doing a little tangent, but I should do videos again on Charlie Kirk. Again, I didn't know him, don't follow him, but I'm telling you, there's some things from leadership. It's very simple to see. That story is not all right. And I'm not even talking about the conspiracy theories that Israel is involved, which I'm not going to doubt that at all. But did you see at all the Charlie Kirk funeral? That looked more like a Republican political convention as opposed to a funeral. Reminds me a little like Pat Tillman. The point is, even money, I don't want to do a tangent here. I'm telling you, there are things about that story that aren't right. And I'm not saying negative about Charlie Kirk. I still think overall he has a positive message. But let me just give you an example. And we're gonna get to the economy, but this is about money itself. People are donating to Erica Kirk and the family. On paper, that sounds fine. I didn't realize how much Charlie Kirk, his net worth is. Sounds like he was doing very well. And I believe their net worth, we're going to say, is at least $10 million. It could be even more. The point being is when you're a widow in America with 2 kids and your net worth is $10 million and you need financial support from other people to make a living, well, what does that say to other people in America? How are they living? Meaning that they're doing financially well. And some people could say, yeah, but they could still give money. I don't know. There's a lot of military veteran widows out there with kids, and they need the money. Even though, like I said, I don't really support the military anymore. But you get my story, and then there's a lot of money in this story that I didn't realize. And was Charlie Kirk a bit of a tool for political, just like Pat Tillman? It goes again. It's so much about the money. So let's talk about the money, and we're going to talk about. Because again, I predict a major economic collapse is coming for America. So we're going to focus on these topics with money. We're going to focus on gold. We're going to focus on crypto. And we're going to focus on 2 specific cryptos that I'm going to tell you. One is Bitcoin. You probably know that already. And then I'm going to tell you how the world is changing. Now, the difference between me and other people is I put actions behind my words. I predicted this was going to happen in 2005, the collapse of America. And in 2010, I left America. When you leave, you know it. And the point that I made about America going from collapse to revolution to civil war, the collapse is going to be mostly economic. Because I'm telling you, as much as you think America's coming together, you put economic hardship on this, we are going to kill each other. I mean, even military veterans, we don't like each other. We don't really bond. I know the media makes you think that the American military were one big brotherhood. It's not. So the point is if the American military is not one big brotherhood, what about the American people? And Trump knows it. And that's why. And that's why we're going to get in the story how he's trying to save the economy. It's not going to work. So first, let's talk about gold. One of the things I did not understand is when the Bitcoin and the crypto were coming out, they were anti-gold. That didn't make sense to me. And even though I'm pro-crypto, I've always been into gold. So when I left in 2010, I put 100% of my investments in gold. Now, truth be told, if I would have put those investments maybe in tech, Amazon, Meta, you name it, I probably would have done better. But the good thing with gold is, 1, it will never be a bad investment. But 2, in terms of when times of crisis come, and it's coming, gold is going to be a phenomenal investment. So I still believe gold is going to be a very good investment. It could be a phenomenal investment, but at the very least, very good. So I'm not in this boat with these crypto people that are anti-gold or gold is going to be replaced. No, ain't happening. So let me tell you, and so I put action behind my word. In 2010, I put all in gold. But let me now expand that because of my time in China. If you in America think Americans value gold as a store of value, it's been around for thousands of years. You have not seen China and these other non-Western countries like Russia or India. They value gold even more than us. I would go to Chinese homes and they would have secret, in a secret vault. They just want to show me. They love showing off their money. They're like, this is our gold. I don't remember that much in America where people really, really invested in gold and had their own gold safes or silver. Not to the extent of China, because in their societies, it's not as developed where they don't really trust the stock markets or whatever. So gold, and it's not just in China, it's in Russia, it's in India. And what is this entity? It's called the BRICS. And I've been studying this for over 20 years. And we probably heard of the BRICS now, the Brazil, Russia, India, China, the developing countries. They, as a whole, are more into gold than the typical Americans. So what's my point on that? Well, you've probably seen how Donald Trump is trying to influence the world, sometimes like a bully, like going to Greenland. And no, I don't believe China will ever become the superpower. But the point is, you're going to realize that America, we are not going to be able to bully the world. And these BRICS nations as a whole, they're going to have more and more power and influence. And they back gold heavily, heavily invested. And I believe America is doing it too. So what am I saying? I want to set the stage in gold has always been an amazing store of value for thousands of years. And guess what? It still will be. And I'm telling you. So I want to make this point now. We're going to talk about crypto, but if you're one of these people, and I get it, I totally get it. I have people, it'd be the same thing with my father. My father was not into technology, but if you're like, David, I don't like technology, I don't trust this crypto, I'm old school, you're fine. I'm still going to advocate crypto, but if you go for gold, and we're talking solid gold bullion where you hold it in your own hand, you will do fine. So that's what I'm trying to tell you, that I am not with these other crypto people that are sort of against gold. Gold is going to be. So where is the world going? So when I went to China, in mainland China, I was thinking to myself that the US dollar is going to no longer be the world's reserve currency. It's not going to happen. But what's going to replace it? The Chinese yuan is not going to replace the dollar. Now, to give credit to the Chinese yuan, central banks around the world are holding more Chinese yuan and less dollars. And I've said this, the world is going to turn into more of a multipolar world, where I've said, I believe China is going to be the regional power of Asia. You're going to have Russia, you're going to have Iran, but China is not going to replace America as the world superpower. And the Chinese yuan, or the renminbi, is also, it's not going to replace the dollar. The problem is, though, just like America is no longer going to be the world superpower, the US dollar is not. And if you remember Donald Trump, he said that too. When the US dollar no longer becomes the world's reserve currency, it's worse than losing a major war, something. Oh, he's right. Because we don't care about these wars anyway. Afghanistan, who cares? It's all about the money. And the US dollar is in trouble. But the Chinese yuan is not going to replace it. And I was wondering what's going to happen. So I still believe it will be a gold-backed system. I want to repeat that. Like in the military at West Point, we would stomp our foot on the ground where the cadets know what the answer to this test is. I believe the future of this system, it will be like a Bretton Woods 2.0. We're going back to gold as the gold standard. But what's going to be the currency? It's not going to be the US dollar. And it ain't going to be the Chinese yuan. So what is it going to be? Now we're getting into crypto. Let me talk about Bitcoin. Another video, I'll tell you how I got into Bitcoin. It's weird, and it has to do with drug smuggling. Wasn't with me, had a friend of a friend. It's a weird story, but I never really quite knew about Bitcoin. But when I heard about it, because the friend asked me, they're like, David, why aren't you into Bitcoin? He's like, you're the exact type of guy that should be investing in Bitcoin the way you talk. And I said, I sort of heard about Bitcoin. I don't quite know about it. He explained it to me, and he's not a financial guy at all. Again, this is part of the drug smuggling. He explained it to me. Within a week, I was fully invested. But I want to explain this because this is a very important point for leadership. Because I admit it, heavily invested in Bitcoin. Now you're going to ask me, who invented Bitcoin? This guy Nataki Shimoto, Satoshi? I don't even know the name. But you have to ask yourself, that is the craziest thing where you have so many Americans and people around the world are investing money in this thing called Bitcoin. And we don't even know who invented this. And of course, Bitcoin is really, it's a store of value, but it's not really anything. It's digital. It's basically built on faith. Gold is different. Gold has utility. Gold is jewelry. Gold, you put your hands on it. And also, by the way, let's face it, gold has been around for thousands of years. And I'm admitting, you could say, and I'm still pro Bitcoin, but the story is going to change. So I was one of these people also that invested heavily money in Bitcoin. But it was crazy. I said, this is crazy. I don't know who invented this. I don't know where this is going. And I have my feelings of who invented Bitcoin. So to get the long story short, I am now de-investing out of Bitcoin. My share in Bitcoin is minimal now. Now, I admit to those Bitcoin followers here who say, David, you're crazy. It's the worst investment. In the future, if I'm wrong, I will admit I'm wrong. But I'm still into crypto, and I'm going to explain this to you. So the part about Bitcoin right now is, again, everyone's investing in this thing called Bitcoin. We don't know who even invented it. Let me explain the difference to you about China and about America. China is, part of the reason I can understand China very much is it's fascism. It's basically, if you served in the military, you'll understand how China works. So China has what's called a digital currency, digital backed currency. It's this, what is it, CBD, the central digital backed currency. And oh, by the way, it's coming for America. This is where where Trump signed into law. We are going in this. But why was China first to this and America, you could say, was later on? Well, when you live in anyone who served in the military, you know it. The government puts the order and that's it. Remember, when I first went to China in 2010, you could use cash. You could use cash in China like you could use cash in America. I didn't see the difference. Not anymore. It's amazing. People don't accept cash. Everything is digital currency. Why? Because the Chinese government is sort of like a military dictatorship. I'm not saying bad. I'm not saying good on this. I'm just telling you like it is. It's basically a military dictatorship and they give the order. That's it. They can't do that in America so easily. Why? Well, we have guns, we have more freedom per se. I should talk about freedom later. And it's just not the way we like it. We're very individualistic, again, good and bad. So the American government can't say tomorrow, okay, no more cash, digital currency. We would say no way. In China, they can. But there's this thing called Bitcoin that came out of the fucking blue. I mean, are you kidding me? This thing came out of the blue. Even when my friend told me about it, I said, is that real? Isn't that just for drug dealers? I mean, you really invested? But now you can pretty much say Bitcoin is mainstream and people are putting more and more money into this thing called Bitcoin. And what is this? We don't even know what it is. So the point is nobody forced anyone to invest in Bitcoin. No one forced. We did it. Even me, we did it voluntarily. And now the American population is voluntarily, it's like, I guess you could say China uses the stick, America uses the carrot. So we've invested in Bitcoin, which is cryptocurrency. So we're getting used to this and we're like, yeah, Bitcoin, crypto's the future, and we're used to it. So then when the digital currency comes, the US dollar, we're sort of used to it. But remember, there's two things that are happening in the world, you like it or not. One is technology and one's globalization. Even though I'm a nationalist, it's going, even with Trump. So globalization is increasing and technology is increasing. We're going to digital currency, people, whether you like it or not. But I just said I'm not into Bitcoin, even though I could be wrong. And when I'm wrong, I admit it. But I don't, and I still think Bitcoin is a good investment. But I'm telling you, I think there's more risk involved, and I think it could have been a set up play, like I said, because Bitcoin's not allowed in mainland China. Hong Kong is different. Hong Kong, they're allowing crypto. But the point being is we had voluntarily just bought into Bitcoin. And I asked people, I said, who invented Bitcoin? Satoshi. I can even pronounce this guy's name, Satoshi. Who is he? Where did he come from? I don't know. Some people say it doesn't matter. I think it matters if you're going to invest a lot of money. But I just wanted, so the stage is set. Now we're into crypto heavily. But now let me go back to my story. One, gold. It's been around for thousands of years. It will stay. We are going to a world gold-backed system. Whether you like China or not, whether you like Russia or not, we are a declining empire. And when the other part of the world says, because they're not going to take our dollar anymore. They're not, and I don't blame them. I agree with them. So we're going to a gold-backed system, and I've said that. So again, I'm pro-gold. If you're into gold, you're fine. But what are we going to do? Well, what we're going to have is a system where all these countries are going to have their own, even the BRICS. I'm not going to say don't trust each other, but the Russian ruble and the Chinese yuan, they want to keep their currencies like it is. So you're going to have, and you already have it in China, you have the Chinese renminbi digital-backed currency. You're going to have the Russian ruble-backed digital currency backed by gold, but then they need to trade with each other. And that trading with each other or with America or the world, what is that currency going to be? What do I believe? It's a big bet. It's called XRP. No, I'm not. No, I'm heavily invested in XRP. And no, I'm not connected with XRP at all. But what I'm trying to do is when I left America in 2010, I knew it. America is going down and the US dollar is going down. But living in China so long, the Chinese yuan is not going to replace the dollar, nor is a China going to replace America. But I'm telling you, the US dollar is not going to be the world currency. And I kept going over, well, how is this going to be? But we are going back to old school. We are going to have a Bretton Woods 2 backed by gold system. So again, if you're into gold, you're fine. And you all know it, we're getting more. Remember, I grew up as a child. I didn't even have a cell phone. We didn't even have personal computers. Look at the world now with technology. You're telling me we're not going to be going more technology? It is what it is, people. We are going into crypto. But again, China didn't need to do the Bitcoin thing. Why? Because they could just order the people through digital currencies. America can't. So now we've got this sort of, I don't know what the word I'm looking for. I want to use the Chinese Chengyu. 怎么说? Yangrou? Goro, I forget. It's sort of like a trickery. And so the point is they put Bitcoin in there and people just invested. Now we're into crypto. So now we're used to it. So now the question is now the countries are going to go to digital backed currencies, but what are we going to use to trade from them? So make a long story short, I believe again, all the countries are going to go to digitally backed currencies. Number one, they're going to be backed by gold. Number two, but there has to be a bridge currency that all these digital backed currencies can trade. Because I've seen it with the BRICS. They're not going to accept other currencies as a pure value. And the XRP could be the bridge. The only thing that I don't like about XRP coming from the BRICS is it's Ripple. This is an American firm. Whereas, because they're not going to use SWIFT anymore. So, because SWIFT, and I guess SWIFT is located in Basel, Switzerland, so I guess you could say it's Swiss, but the BRICS aren't into American-owned or controlled entities. So that I don't know. But then again, if it's not that, where is it going to be? But I do believe XRP could quite be the future of, for lack of a better word, a global digital currency, but technically currency converter. And then all countries are going to have their digital backed currency, the Chinese renminbi, the US dollar, digital currency, but it's going to be backed by gold. It may be backed by their commodities, but it's going to be backed by gold. So now we're going to sum up this real quick. So like I said, if you're into gold, you're fine. Go into gold. You don't have to go into these cryptocurrencies you want. I know it's confusing and it's very risky in many ways, but this whole thing about these Bitcoiners and they're going to replace gold and I disagree wholeheartedly. I believe gold is going to stay, just like it's been for thousands of years, into the future. And I can tell you, living in China, these people value gold more than Americans do. So it's gold. But at the second part, the US dollar is no longer going to be the world reserve currency. Because I agree with these nations. They don't want to be controlled sanctions, working through America. But at the same time, they don't really have their own currency. So I think it's going to be some type of digital currency, which is happening in China already. They have their own digital currency, but you can't trade with China on digital currency. So there needs to be a converter. And I think it could be XRP. So that's the pitch on that. And this is, again, coming from someone who's, like I said, you ask yourself, when I left America in 2010, and I said this, I wasn't like one of these like liberals or whatever leaving America, like, screw you, America, I hate you. No, I wasn't that at all. I was very thankful. I was born and raised in America, but I was telling one of my friends, I said, this system is going to collapse. This is all about corporations. It's all about money. This place is going to collapse. And I went to China, not saying that China is going to be the future power, but I'm telling you, you've seen it now. It's been 15 years. I never remember hearing people now, you could say mainstream, talk about subjects like civil war, collapse, revolution. Because I know when I left in 2010, people thought I was crazy. It's happening, people. And I'm telling you, the first leg of the collapse, like the impetus, will be economics. And like I told you before, the Great Depression, which was horrible, and the other part, that was when the most amount of millionaires were ever made in America. I mean, look at Donald Trump. I'm going to say something negative about him, but Donald Trump and his family are raking in the cash. Do I think corruption is there? 100%. So the part being is I think most Americans are going to get wiped out. But just like the Great Depression, there are going to be people, to include the Trump family, they're going to make a ton of money on this. Ton of money on this. And I'm telling you, one of the ways, now obviously there could be other investments, but one of the ways to safeguard, because the US dollar is done, people. It's done. All the talks I'm having here in China too as well, they don't believe that America is going to be part of the future, and they don't believe the US dollar is part of the future. But like I said, the good part is if you're not into this technology, go to gold. Make sure it's physical gold, that you hide it in a safe spot versus say gold ETFs. I mean, you can invest in gold ETFs, that's fine, but you make sure that you have some gold or silver and it's physical, in your physical possession, and it's hidden and secured, whatever. But if you're into crypto, I'm not saying Bitcoin's bad, but I'm telling you, we'll see. And if I'm wrong, because I was heavily invested in Bitcoin. But I actually think what's more is, I do think it's this XRP. I believe, because that was the main goal of me, not the main goal, but I was in China. I was trying to figure out what is this future currency going to be? And if you ask me right now, it's not going to be Bitcoin. Bitcoin still could be, if it's not a fraud, it still could be used as a store of value, like gold, digital gold. But you can't utilize it. They're not people. The countries are not going to utilize Bitcoin, even if it's legit. It's a good investment. It just doesn't work that way. So, what is this global currency going to be? I believe it could be something like an XRP and a digital converter. So again, hopefully this adds value to you. But I would say is, I go back to what I've said in the beginning. And again, you notice my tone of voice is changing, the way I pitch. I'm not going to, I know I'm saying this now, I'm not going to say, remember, talk to your congressman, ask them why they're ignoring me. It doesn't fucking matter anymore. They don't care about me as a military veteran. They don't care about you people. This country is sinking. You're seeing it more and more. Our systems are not working. I could do so many more videos in the future that show you. Look at the FBI. When I left the FBI in 2007 and I said the FBI is corrupt, do you think people would believe me? You've got Director Comey, that scumbag now. He's been indicted. You know how many directors have been fired? This has never been heard of. But what I'm trying to do is, I'm telling you now, because living overseas, seeing America, it is so obvious. This is the Roman Empire fallen. And I'm not some guy just talking. In 2010, I left America. You know, they always say, people say they're going to leave America. They'll never leave America. America's the best country on earth. I left. I just want the government to stop fucking with me. And that's my thing. But I'm telling you, this country is going down. And the first step is economics. And there's other ways to protect yourself. But I would say is, 1, get gold. 2, I am into crypto. Why? We're going digital, people. It's the way of the future. Bitcoin. I'm just going to say Bitcoin, be careful. That's all I'm going to say on Bitcoin, is just be careful. I could be wrong, and it could be one of the best investments you could ever make in your life, but just be careful. I would think that actually a better crypto investment that has actual utility, converter, is something like an HRB or these other utilities. There's stuff called HBAR, XDC, stuff like that, that actually have utility, that actually is going to be a need for all, especially the BRICS countries in America. Hopefully that adds value. We'll see how this thing goes. But remember, watch this country go day by day. And I've said, if these systems were working, you wouldn't be listening to a guy named David Baumblett. I shouldn't be on these videos. But our systems aren't working. And as a former FBI agent saying that our system's corrupt, and who has just been indicted? The former director of the FBI. Does that surprise me? Not at all. I wrote this in my letter. And the FBI is just one of the pieces of the puzzle. Our military is so corrupt. Our military is corrupt beyond belief. That's enough. Take care of your investments. But I'm telling you, the first leg of the fall of America is going to be collapse. And it will be economic in nature. A lot of people, I think the majority are going to get wiped out. But there are going to be a minority, like the Trump family, that are going to make a fortune. And hopefully you can make some money in too. And that would be, like I said, I advertise gold, and also I would look at crypto, but a lot of it's a scam. Maybe look at XRP. It's not like I have anything to do with it, but I'm trying to add value to this. This is David Bambla from Terebinth Leadership, telling the American Patriots, along with patriots around the Western world, have courage, continue to research, form your bonds, work together, form your own teams, and lead to victory.